Being a sports villain to a particular city usually means in some way, shape, or form, you got in the way of one of its own teams. Here at the AJC, we're counting down the top 12 sports villains that the city of Atlanta is not fond of. As good as the 90s Braves were, they only won it all once, despite making 5 trips to the World Series. In 1997, they lost to the Marlins in the NLCS, and their Game 5 loss in particular became notorious for its strike zone, with strikes called against the Braves that did not remotely cross the plate. This prompted Chipper Jones to say he was so mad right now, he can't see straight. You can go back and watch the game to let your own eyes be the judge. But our number 8 villain in Atlanta sports history is umpire Eric Gregg. Joining me now is the AJC sports editor, Chris Vivlamore. Chris, what makes Eric Gregg the perfect Atlanta sports villain?
Because he's another one of those figures that stood in the way of what could have been a World Series. I mean, the Marlins won that series and went on to, win it all. And if you're a Braves fan and you were screwed, then you have a hold a grudge.
No, you weren't in Atlanta yet, working in Atlanta, but you were watching the game. As you were watching it, what were you thinking?
Yeah, that's one of those instances where I've been here for 20 years, but you still remember that and you still almost feel sorry for them because it was so outrageous. The strike zone was so outrageous that even somebody who didn't have a dog in the fight, so to speak, could realize that this is just not right.
What were you noticing about the way the strike zone was being called? I mean, you can go back and watch it on YouTube and you're like, wait, that can't be right.
So I did. I went back and watched it on YouTube just to kind of remind myself, and there are literally pitches in the right-hand batter's box that are called strikes. It was just that bad, and you just realize like that you got no shot. And it almost seemed like as the game got on and Levon Handers struck out 15 in that game, that it was becoming personal almost, because there was, I mean, just why? Why is a pitch in the right-hand batter's box a strike?
And it always feels like, I think, whenever your team gets the short end of the stick in the postseason, everyone's always like, why me? Why us? And the answer is it's not always you, but because a lot of teams that go through that, but the Braves and Atlanta sports in particular, it really does feel like that's been the case.
Yeah, because we've had our share of those instances, right? Infield fly rules and 28 to 3s and things like that have gone against us. This is just one more in a series. So, yeah, we have a little chip on our shoulder.
What does it say about this moment? I mean, this moment has some staying power that people are still angry about it.
Yeah, so when we were developing this series, we were talking about it and throwing out names and trying to rank them, and you go back and look at it, and members of my staff were like, I'm still seething now that I've watched that again on YouTube. So yeah, these things stick with you. But if you're a sports fan, they do. But in particular, one that's that egregious.
Just talking specifically about the mechanics and the calls of that game, what stood out to you the most?
That it was the left-handers that were really getting the short end of the stick. For some reason, he was favoring balls out to the right. And so the Chipper Joneses of the world in particular, I think there were 15 strikeouts. Chipper Jones struck out twice. Somebody struck out 3 times, but a lot of guys struck out twice, but most of them were from the left-hand side of the plate. The Braves had a lot of left-handers then.
Right. Chris, thank you so much for joining me.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks to all of you for watching. Make sure you continue to follow along as the AJC counts down the top 12 villains in Atlanta sports history.